I'm Abigail. This is James, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
We are joined today by Newbery Medal winning author Paul Fleischman.
Mr. Fleischman has written everything from picture books to poetry to novels.
He has written both fiction and nonfiction, including the book Seedfolks, and of course, he is a Newbery Medal winner for his book Joyful Noise. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. What are we going to talk about?
Our entire grade just read the book because of Mr. Terupt, which is told from 6 different viewpoints.
You are the OG of the multi-viewpoint book for kids. So many books we love, their origin traces back to you.
Can you talk to us about how you first started with the idea of doing multi-viewpoint books, and if you were at all concerned when writing it?
If
I can certainly. I'll take you back to the time when I was about your age, and my father came home from the library and with a record album. That's how music was played back then, vinyl. He put it on, but before he put the needle down, he gave me the score. What's a score? Well, authors write books, composers write scores. And if you play an instrument, you know what music looks like. Well, imagine music written for an entire orchestra, not just the piano, not just the clarinet, but maybe 15 instruments. It goes across from left to right, and the composer has very carefully decided that this person comes in here, and all the strings come in there, and the woodwinds come in here, and then nobody for a second, and then one. It was like a puzzle. And as he played the piece of music, we followed along with our eyes, and I was entranced. My father, Sid Fleischman, wrote books. I didn't want to write books. I wanted to write scores. I thought they were incredibly neat. And you can give yourself that same experience online. If you do a Google search or at YouTube for a piece of classical music and you see a picture that comes up that's not of a person who wrote it or of an orchestra playing it, but of music, that means they're going to show you the score while the music plays. Give it a try. So all those intricate voices carefully braided together. I wanted to do that in books, and that's what I did in Bull Run and many books after that. And you're right, at the time I wrote it, I didn't know any other kids' books that had multiple points of view. There had been a couple for adults, but nothing for kids. So I had a lot of fun writing that book.
It seems to us that multi-view books, like Seedfolks, are great read-alouds in classrooms. When did you realize that?
You know, when I was in fifth grade, my teacher said, close your books. We're going to read a play for Reader's Theater. And everybody was given a part. And the play was called The Bad Seed. It's about a very evil little girl who murders a classmate. These days, a teacher who read that play with her students would be fired in about 4 minutes or less. But we had a ball. We loved it. It was scary and eerie and exciting. And that's what gave me the idea of making books designed for performance, not just reading silently. Yep.
we actually do readers' theaters, and we're in fifth grade.
How about that? I had another something that happened. My father was a writer, and he wrote The Whipping Boy, which also won the Newbery, and many other books. And he would read his books. When he finished a chapter, he would call my sisters and me and my mother together, and he would read it aloud to us. So I was used to books as something that were performed and read aloud. Yeah.
Do you have to change your mindset when writing for different characters?
Well, you kind of do. To be a writer is to be a person who can look through the eyes of people who are very different from you. So, although you're in fifth grade, you could, if you're a writer, you might be writing about somebody who's 90 years old. And if you live in Illinois, you might be writing about somebody who lives in London or lives in Africa or lives in Hawaii, very different places. And you learn to do that. You pay attention to how people use language, what it sounds like in different places and coming out of different mouths. And you can see that in Seedfolks. There's a lot of different dialects of English in that book.
When you started writing, there was a lot less diversity among authors.
Because of that, there wasn't a lot of representation in books.
However, your books do include diversity. Was that something that was important to you?
It was. I grew up in Santa Monica, California, uh, pretty much a pretty white place, and my family didn't travel much, but the world came into my house via a short wave radio. And that's a radio in which you would hear, for you, not stations just in Chicago or just in Illinois or just in the US, but stations from all over the world. And they would be in all different languages. But there was a lot of English, and you could hear programs of music from other cultures. I used to love to listen to stations from the Middle East because came to like that music. So I learned about diversity really through the shortwave radio, and I wanted to bring that into my books. Um, I wrote three different books that braid folktale variants from around the world into one. A variant, there's the story of Cinderella is told all around the world in different ways. And so I put them into one. So yeah, world cultures have always been important to me and another multiple voices, multiple perspectives. You hit the nail on the head.
How much do your book's ideas grow from just noticing something that seems small at first?
A surprising number of them have come out of a little article in the local newspaper. That's how Seedfolks got its start. It was about a woman in my town who was a psychologist, and she helped her patients heal by having them garden. And that was the thing that was the seed of Seedfolks, really. That's happened a number of times. So writers always have their eyes open, always have their ears open, and often they have a pocket. Why? Because they put a little notebook in there, like me, and they can stick a pin in there. And if they hear a great name, get an idea, overhear something interesting, see something interesting, they'll jot it down and put that little note at home into their big notebook. I've got one like that. You could keep one like mine. Has a section for story ideas, character ideas, lines of description, humor, nonfiction, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, they're always looking, always listening.
Once you now have that idea, writing a book is still big commitment. How do you become sure that this is the story you want to tell?
Well, you do that because you have a little meter inside, a little meter. And when you think about that story idea, you see how high the meter goes. And if it only goes up to there, you're only that much excited, you probably won't write that book because that isn't quite enough excitement to get you over the obstacles, the hills. It's like riding your bike up a long route that's going to have some hills. It's going to have some downhill, some fun time, some easy flat time, but also some hills. And you need an idea that's so exciting that you'll still want to go up those hills and push hard and sweat and be tired. Those are the kind of ideas you want. And the more you write, the better you are at judging how excited you are by an idea. So always pick something you're really excited about.
What is your process when putting a book together?
Do you decide the end before the middle?
Or do you put it together in order?
I usually do walk through it in my mind and I take notes and I make a little outline. Not every writer does that. Some people like to just start writing right when they're excited, right then, and then just sort of figure it out as they go along. And they write a very messy first draft that kind of answers the basic questions about the books. And when they're done with that, oh, they realize this works. That character doesn't need to be in the book at all. No, we go to Argentina. We don't go to Brazil. That changes. And then they rewrite it. And then maybe they rewrite it again. I'd rather do the thinking first, the outline first, and do less rewriting. So that's the way I do it. But my father was more of the other kind of person. He liked to just work off his enthusiasm and get going right away and improvise and figure it out as he went along. There's no real rules in writing. Whatever works for you works.
About a decade ago, you wrote a book very different from your others.
Eyes Wide Open was a book about the problems with the environment. The problem hasn't gotten better.
And now it's more clear than it was then that facts don't matter for many people anymore. How much trouble do you think we are in?
Well, I think we're in a lot of trouble. And it's too bad that facts don't matter for everybody. Many people are swayed by their emotions or the vested interests I talked about in the book, money, politics, other things. So, yeah, I'm sorry to say, I wish I could say, yes, everyone read that book and they changed their ways and we're all working together to cool down the planet. That has not happened. Um, Maybe something great will come down the pike, will come along that will really help us um, stop burning so much carbon, and that's what we're going to have to hope for.
We have interviewed a number of authors who have had books banned.
That means in those places, kids don't have the same access to books that we have and may not be able to see themselves represented in books.
Can you give us your thoughts on this?
I'm think book banning is terrible. Of course, kids should be able to read things on the topics they want to read about. I was Eyes Wide Open was banned in a way. I was all set to come to the state next to nearby yours, Iowa, and I was going to speak about Eyes Wide Open, and the principal of that school read the book and disinvited me, even though I'd won the Newbery Medal. He banned me, and so it can happen. It does happen. It's happening more and more. And now it's trying to move from school libraries to public libraries. So it's a very worrisome trend. And I think we're all going to have to raise our voices and say we deserve to read the books we want to read.
Your dad, Sid Fleischman, was a great author as well. Can you tell us about the influence, if any, he had on your work?
I can. My father loved history. And as you can see from Bull Run and other books I wrote set in the past, in the colonial era, I love history. He made history really interesting, really exciting, really funny, really crazy. And so he got me interested in that. He was a funny guy, very witty. I like to put humor into my books as well. And he wrote with a lot of imagery. That means you use words to paint a picture in your readers' heads. And that's a really hard thing to do, but he was really good at it. So instead of saying a character was very, 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 very thin, not too interesting, he would say he could take a bath in a shotgun barrel. Well, you know what a shotgun looks like? It's got a long two barrels. If you could take a bath in a shotgun barrel, you're thin. Think up those lines takes work, takes time, but he was great at it. And his books are a lot of fun to read because of that.
In 1985, your dad won the Newbery Medal. In 1987, you did. Can you tell us exactly where you were and your reaction and what it meant to 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 you when you found out you had won the same very prestigious award that your dad did?
I can tell you, I was in a pretty strange place. I was in the chair of a dentist's office having my
What?
teeth cleaned. And my wife called and told the dentist, you have to give him this news. And so somebody came in, or I guess they waited till I was done in the dentist chair, came out to pay and said, your wife called, you've won the Newbery Award. And my face, of course, I was utterly surprised. And the other people in the office had no idea what the Newbery Award was, you know, just the way maybe dentists win award for best dentist of the year. Do we know the name of that award? No. So they had no idea what it meant, but it totally changed my life. I can tell you that. That's one of those key moments. I hope you both have a moment like that in your life, or several.
Can you tell us your thoughts and if you are at all concerned about artificial intelligence and its future impact on publishing?
That is a great question. I wish I had a great answer for you. I don't know where it's going to go, what it's going to do. Um, it's easy for me to tell when I'm reading something written by artificial intelligence. I don't know if it's going to be easy for kids who will grow up on that kind of writing. And of course, the writing will get more and more like human writing. So it's certainly a worry, especially for your generation. Do you think you could tell the difference?
Hmm. I've never read one.
I've read I've my friend has this app called Chat GBT. I watched it write it. I mean, it made several typos, but like it kind of sounded like human writing.
Yeah. A lot of times when you do a Google search, the first thing that comes up will often be something that's been written by AI, and there's a lot of repetition. It's just not the way we talk, certainly, or normally write. So who knows what it's going to do in the future? Have no idea. I'm going to leave that one to you guys.
What advice do you have for young writers?
Easy. Read. Why? That's how you learn to write. I never took a class in writing. I've almost never read a book about writing. I've just read a lot of books, fiction and nonfiction, and learned by writing my own books. And you learn really by reading. You figure out what people do, what's the normal thing here, what's interesting, what works, what doesn't work. And the neat thing about that is you can study writing whenever you read. So on a bus stop, in the middle of the night, on a long car ride, anything like that. And I've done all those things. So yeah, your teachers are your books and you get to choose them. It's pretty cool. It's a great way to get an education.
That's big advice.
Do you also have a smaller tip for something you do when you are writing?
That maybe a lot of people don't.
What do I do? Well, for a novel, instead of having just one document on the computer, I probably have about five. And one is for the outline, and one might be for lines I've cut, and I might want them back, so I store them somewhere. And so all like that. There's save your things. What else would I say? Um, Save your work every day or continuously through the day so you don't ever lose it. That's important. Those are the first things that come to my mind.
Can you tell us about what you are writing now?
Right now, I'm in the stage before writing. You've probably heard that with an iceberg. When you see the top, what percentage of the iceberg are you seeing? Are you seeing it all? No,
Very small.
Yeah, tiny.
very small. Same with writing. That's the book up there. And underneath is all the thinking, researching, wondering, deciding. And that's where I am right now. I haven't figured out what my next book is going to be. I have a book coming out next year that's about a fourth grade class in a state very near you in Wisconsin. And they track bird migration, a certain bird that comes from Brazil up the Mississippi Valley and to their town. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to do next. So I'm looking at different ideas, weighing them, see how they are on my meter. Is anything way up there? And looking at the problems and trying to come up with solutions to the problems. That's where I am right now.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
10 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I hope so.
Number one, what's your favorite phrase, Steve?
I have no idea. Maybe that's it. I have no idea.
Number two, what is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
I have a book on the history of wallpaper, and someday I'm going to write a book about wallpaper. It sounds crazy, but you'd be surprised.
Number three, what's your go-to snack food?
Chocolate.
Number four, what was your favorite book growing up?
By the Great Horn Spoon, by an author I know well, my father, Sid Fleischman. It's about the gold rush. Check it out.
Number five, if you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
Ooh, gosh. Huh. The Sierras. Yeah, I'd be up in the Yosemite High Country. That's where I go.
Number 6. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Gee, you're asking some hard questions. I can't do that rapidly. What would it be? Hmm. Gosh, I wish I had the brain really that a composer had, where you could hear 16 lines of music at once. That would be a great superpower that some people have.
Number 7. What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Favorite cartoon? Um, well, what was it? I did like the Flintstones. That was good.
Number 8. What is your favorite rainy day activity?
Hmm. Probably reading.
Number 9. If you could have any three dinner guests, who would they be?
If I could have any what?
Three dinner guests, who would they be?
Oh, three dinner guests. Wow. Gosh. Well, I do not know. I'd bring my father back. We could ask about the afterlife, find out how it
Oh,
is.
but by the way, you can choose any fictional characters.
Oh, fictional characters too. Well, we could have my father, Jack from By the Great Horn Spoon, his Gold Rush book, and Praiseworthy, the butler, who goes with Jack around the horn on the ship into California. So one real person and two fictional ones.
Number 10. What is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Hmm. Huh, huh, huh. I do not know. But in general, my parents encouraged me in what I was doing. A lot of people, I don't know if you know this, if a kid says, I want to be a writer or an artist, a lot of adults say, are you out of your mind? You'll starve. You'll never make a living. My parents' advice was go for it. And I did.
I want to be a graphic novelist.
There you go. Go for it.
You were awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
And thank you so much for spending this time with us.
We can't wait to read your future books.
You and me both. Thank you. You guys were great interviewers. Way to go.